Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Peach State Payments, ethical processing, more profit, less stress. Chiro HD, more than an EHR, practice management simplified. The Chiro Speaking Company, attract, educate, and convert. Chiro Spring, cloud-based, user-friendly software with all the essential features chiropractors need. OmniWave, redefining comfort and acoustic wave technology. Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 726 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Danny Scahill. And if you want to hear our conversation about mindset mastery and total health transformation, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. It's 726th episode today, and I have Danny Scahill on with me. Really excited to have this guy on. Love his accent, by the way, but he's an incredible practitioner, been at it for 18 years. We're going to touch on topics such as his books. He's got a couple of them, Total Health Transformation and 80/20 Chiropractic. We're going to touch on his programs, Mindset Mastery, and for chiropractic, and Total Health Transformation, which I think everyone can benefit from. And there is some philosophy around why he does what he does. I'll get into why we do what we do here shortly, but eat, move, and think is his baseline. And I'm going to ask him a couple questions on what it takes to hit peak performance. And we're going to take some dives on meditation, the types he likes, how long he typically goes for, and what time of the day he does the meditation. But before we get into his story, I'm going to let you all know why we do what we do. Well, here at Chiro Hustle, we're very fundamental on protecting freedom of speech. We know what it's like to have ours infringed upon, so we'd never do that to you. We also believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. They are not the same things, but if you need anybody to help you sort that out, go find a chiropractor in your city or neighborhood, and they will surely guide you and your family to making good health decisions. Philosophically speaking, we protect BJ Palmer's Sacred Trust. If you don't know what that is, go to the show notes, click on Sacred Trust. I don't care if you've been practicing for 30 years, go do it. You're going to learn more about chiropractic than you ever did before previously. I guarantee it's BJ Palmer's last written words. We believe in subluxation-based chiropractic also. I know I shouldn't have to say that, but they're removing this out of the colleges. So if you know a chiropractor in college, or as they say over in England, in uni, share this show with them, please. Share this with chiropractors that are new grads so that they can start understanding BJ Palmer's big idea. We also believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence and the educated intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical, gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual, which creates the educated intelligence. And with that, this is episode 726. Dr. Danny, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, mate. Really appreciate being here, mate.
Yeah, I was checking out what you are all about, and I'm really excited to share your story because 18 years in practice, I think it takes 10 years to become a legend, and now you've got 8 on top of that. So let's talk a little bit about that. How did you decide that chiropractic was the right path for you?
Great question, mate. So if I go back to when I was about 14 or 15, I injured one of my shoulders and lower back, basically lifting weights too young. Because when I was 14 or 15, I was about 5 foot nothing. I'm only 5'7" now, but I was, just about 5 foot when I was mid-teens. And my dad said to me, don't be lifting weights until you're 18. You'll be practically fully grown then. And at that time in my life, I was doing lots of martial arts like karate and kickboxing 3, 4, 5 times a week. And a lot of the guys I was coming up against were way bigger than me. So which is why I was kind of decided um, incorrectly in hindsight to lift weights too young. So I got injured, started to see a physiotherapist for I think it was about 18 months. Luckily, my mum had free Bupa care or free insurance cover for the whole family because it didn't do a thing for me. Might have felt good in the moment, but it didn't help with any correction or anything. Then I started to see an osteopath that my mum had recommended, and that really started to help me. And at that time of my life, I would have been about 17. So I'd applied to do university by then. And I always wanted to be a lawyer from about the age of 5, a criminal defense lawyer of all things I always wanted to be. And the osteopathy started to help me. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to be a lawyer. I worked in a solicitor's office on a Friday afternoon, like volunteering, basically a glorified milk monitor, James, just making teas and coffees and doing a bit of filing. I thought, I don't care. I don't care how much these guys get paid. I'm not doing that for the rest of my life. So I cancelled my application to do law and I applied to do osteopathy because I looked at what they were doing. I thought, these guys are really helping me. It looks like they're helping loads of other people. I'm going to do that. So I went off to train to be an osteopath. I was working full time and studying part time. And so I was 18 when I started that in 1997. And I was by far the youngest in my class. Most people were kind of midlife job change. So they were in the 40s and 50s. And I was, just out of college or just out of school, really. And so I did nearly 4 years of that. And over in the UK, at that time, which would have been about the year 2000, all chiropractic schools and all osteopathy schools were getting regulated by their own council. And they decided blanket across the board, any part-time schools are closed. I was studying part-time, working full-time, and I could almost touch the finish line. So they closed that down. My osteopathy mentor, the guy who first did when I first seen an osteopath right at the beginning, not as a student at that point, but as a client. And he said, "Why don't you become a chiropractor?" I said, "That's interesting. I'll look into that." So then I applied to do chiropractic now, and they offered me a place, but they said, "You're not getting any credit at all for the 4 years osteopathy. In fact, you're going to have to do an extra year. You're going to do a foundation year as well." So by the time I'd finished my chiropractic uh, college education, because every day's a school day, we never stop learning, I believe. But once I finished working at the studying at the college, I'd done 9 years training before I adjusted my first ever chiropractic private client. So it was quite a long journey, and that's what got me into it. And as you mentioned, since then I've been in practice for 18 years.
Well, I believe that we all have this fundamental pathway that creates us who we are. And, mine started 16 years ago. I was a bar guy working as a bartender in a piano bar. And the guy that was doing ID checks to allow people into the bar was going to Palmer College to play rugby. And, tough looking guy, very fit, but he was going to become a chiropractor. And I said, "Wow, this is awesome." And one day he asked me 16 years ago if I would go and help him run his chiropractic clinic. And I was like, "Bro, I don't know anything about chiropractic except for when I get adjusted, I feel better." He's like, "Perfect. I'll teach you everything else you need to know." So we all start somewhere. And that's really a fundamental pathway for us to see what's here today. And what's here today is you're an author. And I think that it's really cool for us to dive into the process of that too, and maybe share a little bit about the books that you've written.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the first of those two books was Total Health Transformation, or as I call THT for short. That was trying to remember now. It was either 2017 or 2018 that came out. And then the second one, 80/20 Chiropractic, that came out in 2021. And so we were talking a little bit before the show about James Chestnut and various other people in our great profession. And James was one of the big inspirations for me to write that first book. He talks about eat, move, and think, or eat well, move well, think well. In my book, it's very similar to that, but it's slightly different at the same time. It's eat, move, and think on purpose. And that purpose is to take your health from where it is now to where you would love it to be. And so those three elements, I guess they're kind of self-explanatory, really, aren't they? The eat well is about what we put in our mouth, whether that's food and drink, and whether that's good or bad. Um, the move and well bit is two things. That's regular exercise, and it's also getting adjusted regularly. And then, so the eat well, the move well, and the think well, that's what's happening between our ears. And I forget which one of the greats in our profession said the most important adjustment is the adjustment north of the atlas. And whoever it was who first said that, I couldn't agree with them more. Because in that first book, I talk a little bit about my story. When I was in my teens, when I got injured, when I was mid-teens, I got injured, and I went almost overnight from exercising a lot. Like, I used to play football a lot as well from Liverpool, and football is to some is bigger than religion in Liverpool. When I say football, I mean soccer, mate. You know, the original football. And I was, very, very active, very, very fit, and then I got injured, and all of that stopped overnight. And then all of a sudden, I was introduced to being stressed. Never really experienced much in the way of stress, because I was exercising so much, so regular. My mind was just clear all the time because I was so fit and so active. But overnight, I went from not being able to, being able to exercise loads to not at all. And it really started to affect me mentally in a big way. And so that was kind of part of the inspiration for doing the book as well, because I recognized then, don't get me wrong, I didn't recognize it straight away. I recognized probably by the time I was about 19 or 20, if I don't exercise regular, then that's going to affect me mentally. And so that was part of the importance for me. I've never lost that importance for me, because I remember how horrible it was not to be able to exercise regularly, and thereby get stressed out way easier than I would like to. So when I first graduated as a chiropractor after those 9 years of training, I practiced in Dublin. And the guy I worked for first, he was mentored by John Hinwood of Powerful Practices, who sadly is no longer with us, but he was a legend in his own right, that guy, John. And so I started as an associate, and literally on the first day, or maybe the second day, the principal chiropractor, he said to me, "You're going to have to start doing health workshops. I'm not putting any pressure on you when to start them. Just know that you'll need to start them soon." And I said, "Well, when can I start them?" He said, "You can do one tomorrow if you want, but no pressure." I said, "Absolutely, let's do it." So right at the beginning of my chiropractic career, certainly once I qualified and I was in the real world, I realized very quickly I loved to deliver workshops and have that interaction with clients, and educate and hopefully inspire them to want to make changes in their own lives, and then inspire them to want to be able to tell other people about chiropractic and how there's a better way than perhaps the way they're doing it now. And so they were kind of doing that workshop regular from day one, as well as then being inspired by James Chestnut. That was kind of the basis, both of those aspects, to the first book. The second book was pretty much a continuation, or going in some ways a little bit deeper on some aspects, versus the second book, if that makes sense. Versus the first book, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And, as I listen, I also played European football for 22 years and played collegiately, and actually played over in Europe and the Netherlands when I was in college. So I understand the injury aspect. And really, when that rugby student at Palmer got to know me, he's like, "Well, why do you know that the adjustment works?" I said, bro, when I get adjusted, I just feel better. I perform better. I run faster. And that was like the only component that I really knew about chiropractic. I had no idea that this profession had a mindset component. I had no idea that this profession could help with our thoughts. I knew it could help with traumas because of injury. I had no idea that the profession could aid people with their toxins of life. But really, what you're talking about here is the chestnut, foundation. I was always like really considerate of the whole thing. And then I was like, but we left out this one part that I think is the most primary piece of this, which is chiropractic, what it means to me. And that's the adjustment. So I know today, as we were pre-chatting, you wanted to talk to people about inspiring them to get adjusted if they're not already getting adjusted. So let's kind of have that conversation a little bit too, because I do believe that people that are getting adjusted, it's a very slim number of, global population. But what would you say to people to inspire them if they're not getting adjusted?
Great question, mate. So to answer that, I would say very recently I got back from traveling in Southeast Asia, in Thailand and Bali. And consequently, right until the very end of that trip, which was nearly 2 months long, I didn't get adjusted for about 7.5 weeks, give or take. And that is the longest period that I can remember not getting adjusted in my 18-year career. And at first, it was like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good, but I know I need to be adjusted. And then as time went on, because I was exercising regularly out there as much as I could, it wasn't just a jolly, although it was very, joyful, and we had a good laugh and a great time. Um, I yeah, so I was exercising regular. I had quite a few Balinese massages, which were great, but they're not an adjustment. I would love to have both because I'm always a big advocate of getting adjusted, also getting soft tissue work done as well. It's always worked great for me. So when not getting adjusted for a period of time, whether that be a week or 6 weeks or more, I definitely notice my brain doesn't function as well as I would like it to. Focus doesn't I don't focus as well as I would like to, and just generally, feeling good in your own body. I was like, oh, I really need an adjustment. And then we got to the last week. We stayed with a friend who lives in Bali, who's a chiropractor. I had two adjustments on 2 consecutive days, and I was so grateful. It was such a great reset. So those people that have not been adjusted and have been thinking about it, or even haven't thought about it yet, just imagine being able to eat, move, and think on purpose so you can be the best version of yourself. I don't think I could say more to inspire than to do that, because I'm yet to meet anyone in a couple of weeks' time. I'll be 46, so I'm yet to meet anyone in my life that doesn't want more energy, more vitality, and better health. Chiropractic gives that.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Peach State Payments, ethical processing, more profit, less stress. Chiro HD, more than an EHR, practice management simplified. The Chiro Speaking Company, attract, educate, and convert. Chiro Spring, cloud-based, user-friendly software with all the essential features chiropractors need. OmniWave, redefining comfort and acoustic wave technology. Chiro Health USA, ChiroScript AI, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. Let's hustle. Yeah, and I'm just going to go on some silo conversations here, and then we're going to, talk to people about peak performance and meditation, and then we'll close out with a miracle story, but and maybe some of your mentors also. But as I start listening to the eat well part, or the eat, I used to be told that it's not what you eat, it's what you eat eats. And it's what you eat eats. And you have to start thinking about like the linear process about what happens when it gets on our plate. And we just have to be very much more selective about choosing the best option out there and making relationships with people that actually produce on small farms and making relationships to get outside of the big box grocery stores, And I think that when you meet people that responsibly raise animals and produce, it just has a different effect on the person that consumes it. So anybody listening, just keep that stuff in mind. And then the water sources, I think that that's a big part. You have to drink living water. I think that when you drink devitalized and dead water, it does something to the biology inside of you. So I urge everybody to really consider what type of products that you're consuming. The 80-20 rule, when 80% of the things that you put into your mouth are not of good quality, it's going to have a downstream effect on the 80% of performance. And I think that people really have to take those things in consideration. And that all comes to the acknowledgement of how we produce and how we think, which is the next topic of mindset. So I think that people just have to really be considerate. One of the things I tell people all the time is pay the most and cry once. And, people look at the shopping cart about the price points of things. But if you think about, are you worth it? Are you worth it to buy the best quality things that you consume to become the best quality human that you want to be? Those are all things that take in consideration when we think about these fundamentals. So just laying that down there for people to kind of really consider about who you want to become. You are the fuel that you give yourself, and then you are the thoughts that you become. And if you have good quality product inside of you, you become a good quality thinker and producer. So I think it's very much important to talk about. But when it comes to mindset and peak performance, what does that mean to you?
Mindset and peak performance. Well, for me personally, it's about some of the stuff I was alluding to just a few moments ago in terms of being able to give my best to everything that I choose to give it to, whether that be in the work that I do or in relationships with my other half or relationships with family. It's about being able to perform my best in terms of the exercise that I do. Like this morning, I was doing. Have you heard of a program called Shred Fast? That's all. Are they in the States? It's basically it's a little bit like, I guess you could say, like a boot camp in your own house, just watching basically copying what the trainer's doing on the screen. It's hard work. It's like circuit training with some weights and some kettlebells and stuff like that, and a lot of body weight stuff as well. So being able to do that is important for me. And we're just in the process of being between houses, because when we went on traveling in January and February, we'd I'd sold my practice at the end of last summer, and then after Christmas we did some traveling. So we're kind of between houses, and I've just moved from the south of England, not far from London, about 250 miles up north in Yorkshire. So not having all the stuff that I would usually have, like I don't have my bike to go out cycling and stuff like that. So I'm doing what I can to be able to keep eating, moving, and thinking on purpose for me, so I can perform at my best in everything that I do. Now, peak performance to our clients, so chiropractic clients, or to my coaching clients. Now, it's a personal thing. Like some of our clients would have been elite athletes, so their level of peak performance is so different to someone that sits in front of the computer all day for 9 to 5. So it is they're kind of my what peak performance to means to me personally, but for others, it's a very personal thing, and people are at different levels. Hope that makes sense, mate.
Yeah, I just think it's good to give your perspective to people that will listen because, as I tell people, um, friends, families, colleagues, patients, they're going to listen to your show and they're going to get some more in depth of who you are as a person, not just a practitioner. And I think that that's what makes the show such a magical moment for people, is they get a chance to reconnect with themselves and understand who they are again, which I think is very vital. And I know that's a big part about chiropractic over in Europe specifically, is it's this clash between mechanistic and vitalistic. And it sounds like that you have a much more in-depth understanding of the vitalism part of keeping a body healthy and keeping the mind healthy and keeping a person's daily habits going well too. And I know there's a part of that that we opened up with talking about meditation. So I'm really curious for you to share with us a little bit more depth on that. What type of meditations do you prefer? How long do you typically go, and what time of the day are you finding that they're the most effective for you?
Cool. So there's quite a few different types. The main one is TM, Transcendental Meditation, which some of your viewers might remember way back when the Beatles were around. They did TM. They went out to India with Maharishi, the guy who gave us meditation, gave us TM. The only difference is they probably used drugs while they were doing it. I do not. So TM is basically a mantra-based meditation. You buy your meditate, you buy your TM teacher, you will get given a secret mantra that you cannot share with anyone. I've been doing TM now since 2010, so it's almost to the day actually, 15 years. And probably the first 3 years, or maybe even the first 4 years, I never missed a single meditation, and that's twice a day, every day. Now you meditate for, if you're doing a full meditation, you do 20 minutes meditation and then you rest for 10 minutes after. The rest is so important. It allows you to basically come back into your own body. Because if you skip that rest after, it actually tends to, in almost every case, have the opposite effect that you would like meditation to have. It would often make you irritable, anxious, emotions of that nature. Whereas if you have that rest to allow yourself to kind of acclimatize back into the real world, you'll then are far more likely to experience, you know, the peace and the calm and the focus and the productivity that you would hope to get from meditation. Because in those early years, people said to me, "Why do you meditate? What do you get from it?" And I said, "Do you know what? I don't know at that time anyway, but I wouldn't stop doing it." And anytime I stop doing it, I just notice that that clarity is not there to the same extent. The focus is not there to the same extent. Um, I'm not. I'm a pretty chilled guy most of the time, but if I stop meditating, I'm less chilled. There's no two ways about it. So that's my staple meditation, TM. I also do quite regular, not every single day, some Joe Dispenza meditations, which are more of visualization type meditations. For those viewers that have not experienced Joe Dispenza's meditations. And I've also created quite a few different visualizations for myself because um, one of my first love was music. I've been a DJ for way longer than I've been a chiropractor. Dance music, or as in the States they might call it EDM, electronic dance music. So I've been interested in that, and being immersed in it for most of my life. And I've produced some records as well. So the reason I mention that is because creating those visualizations for myself, I've utilized the experience that I've had in the dance music industry. So I've created some visualizations for myself, whether that be, one of my favorites is Your Perfect Shift, which was based on my perfect shift, or what I wanted my perfect shift to be. And now share that with clients and stuff like that to help them. And yeah, so there's a few different types of meditation that I do, and utilize, and it's really useful. I once I've once I started meditation and experienced the benefits and could actually put into words what it means to me and what I get from it, I'd never stop doing it. I know you mentioned yourself you've been doing meditation for a number of years now, didn't you, James?
Yeah, I I utilize a process called Brain Tap. It's
Okay.
it's a headset with a visor on it that puts blue and red lights into the ear diodes, and then it shoots blue light through the visor. And I chill out from anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. And as you were talking about the meditation, it really struck with me because if you don't allow it to integrate, um, and allow it to process within you, you get up too quickly or whatever, and you go on to the next tasks. I could see that frame reference of what you're talking about is it doesn't actually like settle into you the right way. And I was thinking analogously, like, what does this like if I were to talk to people that had no idea about meditation and they did it too quickly, what it would look like. It's like if you cook too fast on too high of a flame, you burn the food. If you're going to shave and you go too quickly, you cut yourself, you know? And it's just one of those things that if we are hasty with our activity, it doesn't really benefit us. We actually, it actually causes more of a problem for us. One of my mentors, Larry Goodman, would always tell me if we do anything out of sequence, we have to go back and redo it. So it kind of settles in with me to think about like if we move anything out of the process, like even on this interview, if I don't follow this flow that we do, we have to go back and repeat things. And that's what I wanted to touch on too, is we were talking about the power of the adjustment earlier. And when you weren't getting adjusted for 7 weeks. And I believe that people that don't get adjusted at all, they're walking through their life. If I can use another analogy, it's like, have you ever seen those like light switches on the wall that have like the turn dial to it? And you can like turn it up and it goes really bright, or you can turn it down and it dims down. And living in full lightness is what we all want, I believe. And when you're turned down, you're living in a dim existence. So I think like the chiropractic adjustment actually removes the subluxation, allows the body to flow like it was meant to, and that's full of light, full of life, less sub, less Asian, less misalignment. So if we live in alignment, like you're saying, the perfect shift, then the body is in full control state, and we're not irritable, we're not dysfunctional, we make good decisions, we're pleasant to be around. And I think that that's the thing for all of us to really take in consideration as we wrap up today's show with each other is I believe that people have to really be in a flow state. But if you want to get to that point of getting adjusted and making good decisions on what you feed your mind, what you feed your body, and what you feed your future, you have to know that being subluxated is a detriment to your existence. You have to know that when you are not connected to source, you cannot connect to the physical reality the right way, which will not let you connect to your emotional reality the right way, which doesn't allow you to connect to your educated reality the right way. So it's a very circular system. And if we follow it the right way, we get massive results and we find clarity and the best life possible. And I do have a couple more questions for you because I know that I wanted to touch on your mentors. I know that you say you practice transcendental meditation and you had some early mentors when you started out in chiropractic, but who's helped you transition the most from practitioner to coach now?
Great question. Um, so there's been loads of mentors over the years. We were chatting online recently about a DeMartini program that you went to, which was amazing for me years ago as well. I think it was a breakthrough experience you were at, wasn't it? So John's been an inspiration and a mentor for many, many years. Um, so in terms of transitioning from practitioner to coach, there's been quite a few. Um, what's his name? The healthpreneur guy, Yuri Elkaim, learned quite a lot in his program a number of years ago. Robbie Delgado, there's been some useful information from and some practices from being in his program a while back. Matthew Loop is always a great inspiration. He's going to be on the show, my show, quite soon as well. As are you, mate. I think it's next week. You're going to be on my podcast. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, there's been loads of mentors and coaches, and one of my mentors has always said, coach without a coach is not a coach. And I 100% agree with that, because you've got, I said earlier on, didn't I? Every day is a school day. And, for as long as I'm breathing, I will have mentors and coaches, because when you want to get somewhere and you want to get there faster, it's wise to have somebody who's already been where you want to go, guiding you there and helping you to get there. So there's just a few of my mentors, mate.
Yeah, I think it's really important to pay homage to people that have let us stand on their shoulders to look over the fence. And I think it's really cool that you've had those people in your life too. Um, and my take on that, the coach being coached, is what you pay for, you pay attention to. And like I said it before, pay the most and cry once when it comes to your diet, but also think about that with who's influencing you. And, money's energy. And I always tell people, you can always make more money. You can't make more time. And if that's the most valuable resource to any of us, invest in yourself wisely and find people and align with them and learn from them and then say thank you. And I think that that's a really important place to get to with all of us, is to be more in the state of thankfulness and praise rather than looking at somebody else's path as something we want to mimic, rather than looking at what they've done and learning bits and pieces from them so we can go be the greatest. As we close out today, I want to ask you to share with us a story about a miracle that you've seen in practice over your 18 years that might inspire other people that would consider chiropractic, or it might just light them up about what they're already doing as a practitioner.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was thinking about this the other day, and a lady that came to mind, her name was Heather, and I'm sure it still is. But the lady's name's Heather, and that's about as good as my jokes get, by the way, mate. As we close out, so Heather came in to see us years ago now. It was probably best part of 10 years ago, and she hadn't had a period in 2, maybe 3 years, and her partner had been trying for a long time for her to get pregnant so they could have children, and that just wasn't happening. So I remember um, adjusting her, and I think she'd had about 12, maybe 15 adjustments or something like that. Not a huge amount, but probably more than some people ever have in their life, sadly. And so she my practice was open plan, and at that time, the practice, it was one big room with 3 benches. So when we did a progress exam or a new client exam or something like that, it would have to be closed room, so nobody else was in there. So I'd finished adjusting. Actually, I was just about to start adjusting Heather. There was other people in the room, lying on benches waiting to get adjusted, and she says, "Dr. D, can I can I ask you a question in private when you're finished with the other people?" And I says, "Yeah, yeah, sure." So I adjusted the other people, waited till the room was just myself, my CA, and Heather. And she says, "Is it possible, Danny, that by getting adjusted, my periods could have started again?" And I said, "Yeah, that's absolutely possible, Heather. Why do you say that?" She says, "Because after the last adjustment, I had to run to the toilet as fast as my legs could carry me because I could feel the period starting." And I said, "Yeah, that's absolutely possible. With chiropractic, well, the goal is to remove nerve interference, reduce or remove those subluxations in your spine, and then your brain and your body will talk to each other the way they're supposed to, communicate better. Your body's going to function the way it's designed to do so." And she says, "Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay, great." And so consequently, she went on to write the most amazing Google review for us. And I kid you not, she quoted my name in the same sentence as Jesus Christ and doing God's work. And sadly, for even though it was 100% genuine Google review, Google took it down. I don't know why. Who knows why Google do half of the things they do? But yeah, so that was it wasn't I guess people will class it as a miracle, but we know it's chiropractic. It's an improved neurological function, and you know, so yeah, that's a little story about Heather. There's loads more, but that's one that came to mind, mate.
Well, I tell people this, that if you put bread in the oven and the oven doesn't turn on, it doesn't bake. And it's the same way with the woman's anatomy. If you put the man and woman together to have a child and the oven doesn't work, you get no child. And I think that that's a part for people to really take in consideration, that it is a miracle. Conception is a miracle, and the body functioning the way it's supposed to. The body needs nothing extra in it. It simply needs no interference. Once the interference gets clear, the body organizes and functions as it's supposed to with innate intelligence. And that's one of the greatest things that anybody can take away from this episode together. As we close out today, is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, actually, my program, Chiropractic Mindset Mastery, there's a free gift for the listeners if they would like to go to. Is it okay if I share the URL, mate?
Of course. I was about to ask you to share your links with them.
Awesome. Thank you. So chiropracticmindsetmastery.com. There's a free masterclass on there that listeners can have a watch of. And after watching that, if they've got any questions, they'll be able to connect, and we can have a conversation, see how we can potentially help each other.
I'm just going to pop it into the chat here. Chiropractic, www.com. chiropracticmindsetmastery.com. chiropracticmindsetmastery.com. So I just put the link here in the comments on today's live interview. Go click on the link and go check out Danny and his program. Love and appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being on with me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on your show, mate. Much appreciated.
Yeah, hopefully it was a good experience for you. It was for me. And I close out like I always do. I tell you, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. See you guys on the next episode. Bye for now, Doc. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.